The late autumn sun poured its last golden light through the lace curtains, casting long shadows across the living room. Margaret Hale stood by the window, buttoning her navy blue coat, her reflection faint in the glass. At 63, she had grown used to silence, the kind that echoed after her husband's passing. But tonight wasn't meant for silence. Tonight was dinner at her son Daniel's house, something she always looked forward to with a tender eagerness. She moved about her home with slow precision, double, checking everything the way only widows do when no one else lives there. The front door latch clicked twice. The back window slid shut with a sigh. She even kissed the framed photo of her late husband, Richard, before leaving, a habit she could never abandon. Her house smelled faintly of lavender polish and old wood, the comforting scent of decades gone by. The clock struck 6. She smiled, picked up her lemon pie, and stepped into the cool evening. The world outside seemed peaceful and aware that within a few hours her home would no longer feel like her own. Dinner at Daniel's was filled with laughter and warmth. Leela, her daughter-in-law, flitted between the kitchen and table, always smiling a little too perfectly. Daniel's voice was cheerful, but Margaret noticed he checked his phone too often, something that tugged faintly at her chest. Still, she ignored it. Tonight she was simply a mother surrounded by family. Then her phone buzzed on the table. The screen read Rosa, her cleaning lady. Margaret almost ignored it, but the tremor in Rosa's voice sent a chill through her veins. "Mrs. Hale," Rosa whispered, "someone is in your house." For a heartbeat, Margaret couldn't move. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely a breath. "I saw them through the kitchen window," Rosa stammered. "A shadow, tall, wearing gloves. I thought you were home, but the lights were off." The pie turned to stone in Margaret's stomach. She had locked everything she knew she had. Yet Rosa wouldn't mistake something like this. "Get out of there," Margaret ordered, her voice breaking. "Go now, call the police." As the call ended, Margaret's heart pounded in her chest. Around her, Daniel's laughter faded into the distance. The evening that had started with warmth now tasted like metal and dread. The quiet house she'd left behind was no longer just a home. It had become a stranger's secret. By the time Margaret reached her street, flashing blue and red lights painted the night. Her heart hammered as the police moved through her front yard, their radios crackling, the once peaceful house now surrounded by officers. She stood frozen by the gate, the lemon pie still clutched in her trembling hands, its crust cracked like her calm. "Mrs. Hale, please stay back," one of the officers said gently. "We're making sure it's clear inside." She nodded numbly. Her home, her safe, quiet refuge, was now a crime scene. After what felt like hours, the officer returned. "No one's here now," he said. "Looks like they left in a hurry." When Margaret stepped inside, her breath caught. Drawers had been pulled open, photo frames lay shattered on the floor, and her husband's old study. The one room she still kept untouched had been ransacked. It wasn't just a burglary, it was a violation. "What did they take?" Daniel asked softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. Margaret's eyes scanned the mess. The TV was still there. The silver cutlery remained untouched, but the small jewelry box that sat on her dresser, gone. The watch Richard wore every day before he died, missing. A box of old letters she'd hidden under her bed, gone too. Only things that meant something to her. The police officer frowned. "It's strange," he said, jotting notes in his pad. "Whoever did this wasn't after cash or electronics. They knew what to take." Margaret's throat tightened. The air in the room felt heavier, almost suffocating. When she turned to answer, her gaze met Leela's, her daughter. In-law stood near the